In last lesson we had discussion on text file read and write operations, and now in this lesson we will study about the reading and writing the CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated values, meaning the delimiter between data values is a comma, although it can be different from the comma like space or tab, but still we call that as CSV file. So here I have a CSV file which we can view on Visual Studio Code. This file contains the information of the marks of the student in 4 lab assessments. All values are comma separated. On top we have a header row describing what each value is, like registration number, name, and then the lab assessment numbers. Let's view the file in the system directory. Here is the file which can be opened on Microsoft Excel, and here it is. You can see as compared to a simple text file, the CSV file opened in Microsoft Excel is much better visualized, and we can use many Excel features on the file. Let's see how we can import the file data in the Python program. For that we have the CSV module, and then we can open the CSV file using the open function and with the context manager as we did in the case of text file. Marks.csv is the name of the file. As mode I will specify R for the read mode, and that is also the default mode. Now here we have to create a reader object of the file using the reader method of the CSV module. Let's name this object for example R. Once the object is created, we can apply the for loop on that, and the loop variable will read one line of the file in each iteration. You can see each line of the CSV file is returned as a list having those comma separated values as its elements. Moreover, we don't have those extra blank lines issues as we had in case of simple text file. The first list is the header row we had in that file. When we create a reader object, we can specify the delimiter value as well. The default delimiter is comma, and hence if we have a comma as delimiter in the file, we do not need to specify that here. But if it is a tab there, we can specify that here. Let me show you that if we specify a wrong delimiter, for example in the file we have comma as delimiter, but if we specify that as a tab, what would happen? See here that now one complete row is treated as one element of the list. I will change that back to comma, or I can simply remove this argument for comma delimiter. Now let's move this for loop outside the context manager since the reader object has been created on line number 3. But we see the error as IO operation on a closed file. What it means is that the reader object created on line number 3 does not contain the file data. It is a reader object which will read the data on demand, and of course that must be done inside the context manager where the file is in open state. So I will place that back inside the context manager. Now there is another type of the reader object we can create with this CSV module, and personally I will prefer to use this one. It is dict reader object, as the name suggests that it will read the file and will return some dictionary. Let's see that. And these are many dictionaries. If you see any of these, the dictionary values are the data on some row of the CSV file, and see carefully the keys. The keys are reg, name, etc., which was the first row of the CSV file. And we don't have that first header row shown here. So what this dict reader does is, it considers the first row of the text file as the keys of the dictionary, and for each next row, it will create a dictionary against the keys of that first row. So you can see the advantage here, that now data is presented in meaningful way and we don't need to remember the index of the data values, and processing the data will be easy. So let's do a task on this data. I'm interested to find the average marks in first lab assessment and so as in other 3 assessments. The first challenge here is that a few students were absent in the assessments, and instead of the marks they are marked as A for absent. So I will generate a list of the marks of the lab assessment 1, and then finding the mean will be quite simple. I'm iterating over the reader object. The loop variable I will be the dictionary we saw earlier. On that dictionary, I will select the dictionary item with the key LA1. But I will also apply the filtering condition that the value is not A, which is for the absent students. So these will be the numeric values, but those will also be strings, so we should convert those to floating values. Let's print the generated list. And we have error. I misplaced the brackets here, and we get this list of numbers. Let's see how many are the values in the list. and these are 92 in total. If you see the CSV file, there are 97 rows. After the first header row, there are 96 students detail, but 4 were absent in lab assessment 1, and hence we have 92 values in the generated list. Anyways, now finding the mean is very easy. And we get the result. Now for lab assessment 2, it should be the same logic. Let's first see the list generated for lab assessment 2. Surprisingly, we see an empty list for lab assessment 2. The reason is that the dictionary reader object is an iterator and not the iterable. There is a difference between iterator and iterable. We can apply the for loop directly both on the iterator and iterable, but a very big difference is that the elements of an iterator are accessed only once and they are consumed, meaning they cannot be retrieved later. So on line number 4, all items of the iterators are retrieved, and after that the iterator is exhausted completely, meaning there is nothing inside it now. And hence on line number 5 the iterator is empty and we get the empty list as LA2. Now you might be thinking why iterators have this behavior. A great advantage of an iterator is that it takes much less memory. We will have a detailed discussion on how this happens and how much the memory is saved by the iterator at some later stage, but now we need a solution for this case. One way can be creating the dict reader object again, and the second method can be converting the dict reader object to a list using the list constructor, and a list is iterable, meaning that we can use that as many times as we want. And now we have the values in the list, and we can even do these calculations outside the context manager. I will complete the logic for mean against all assessments. The total marks of lab assessment 2 were 7 and the mean is 5.3. All other lab assessments were of 5 marks. Now we will see how we can write onto a CSV file. Here I have a list of few strings and I want to write on a CSV file. So I will open the file using the open function. The file name I am specifying as test.csv and I will specify the mode as write mode with the letter W. It is also recommended to set an optional parameter named as new line to a value as empty string. It is because the CSV modules handles the new lines by its own, and if you remember while reading and writing the text file in the last lesson, the new lines were quite annoying and we had to handle those by ourselves. Here in CSV module we don't need that. If you read the Python documentation, you will find that to be safe, we should specify this new line equal to empty string, otherwise we may get extra empty lines on certain cases. Anyways, inside the context manager we will create a write object. Now we will use the write row method and will specify the list A. Let's run it. And a new CSV file is created. You can see the strings are written there with the comma separator. Now we have inner list inside the list B and each list represents one data row. We can use the method write rows and will provide the list B as input. And you can see each inner list is written as one row in the CSV file. Now as we have dict reader object which reads the file data as dictionary, we also have dict writer to write data on CSV file from a dictionary. I will copy a piece of code. Here I have a dictionary. I can create a dictionary writer object. Here we need to provide another input argument which is field names. This corresponds to the header row. I want to make the keys of the dictionary as the header row or the field names. So I will set this to the keys of the dictionary. And then I can use the write row method and will provide the dictionary as input argument. Let's see the file. We can see the values of the items of the dictionary. We don't see the header row here. We should have that so that we could read the CSV file later using the dict reader. And actually we have a method to write the header row, and the name of the method is writeHeader. We don't need to pass any input argument, and the field name specified here will be added as the header row. You can see that here. Now I have a list of dictionaries and I want to write all those onto a CSV file. Now I need to provide the correct field names, which are keys of the dictionaries, so I can pick any of the dictionary inside the list B, for example at index 0. And the method name is writeRows. And here we have the header row and then the values from the 3 dictionaries. Now let's do a task on the CSV file of the marks, which we considered earlier. Let's say a student will fail if the total marks in all 4 assessments is less than 5. So we are reading the file and have converted the DictReader object to a list. Now we need to add the marks of the 4 assessments and see that there can be absent student in some assessments, and we will consider those marks as 0. Let me just print one dictionary for reference to develop the next logic. I will copy that here as a comment. I can iterate over all dictionaries inside the list R. Loop variable rec is one individual dictionary. Then I will iterate over all key value pairs in the dictionary. And we can first apply the condition that if value is A, which is for the absent, we will change the value of the key to 0 in the dictionary. And the other numeric values are also strings, so we should convert those to floats. But we cannot convert the names and the registration numbers to float. So we must apply the condition that the value is a numeric value, and then we should convert that to a floating value. Let's print the list R. This was letter A previously and now converted to 0. And the other lab assessment marks are also converted to floating values. But see that all 0.5 marks are still the string values, because isDigit will return false for these values since the dot in between is not a number. So I must handle that, but I would mention here that if we have such processing required, I would suggest to use Pandas framework, which provides much flexibility and ease to work on and manipulate CSV and Excel files. Anyways, let's solve the issue here. Before applying the isDigit method, I can remove the dot sign using the replace method. Note that it will not remove the dot from the original string, but it returns a new string without the dot. And now you can see all values are converted to floating values. So now we have cleaned our data and it's time to sum up all assessment marks for a student. I will iterate over the list again and I will find the sum of all lab assessment marks. And we can add a new key value pair in the dictionary with key total. Now I will write the complete data on some CSV file. We have an error on some function. I should provide these values inside some iterable, for example list. Now it ran successfully. Let's see the file. And you can see we have the total values saved in the file as well. I want to add the detail of just the failing student, so I can scan the individual dictionary and apply the condition on the dictionary first, that if the total is less than 5, only then write the dictionary on the CSV file. And now we have just the 3 rows in the file. I personally prefer to use dict reader and dict writer for the CSV read-write operations since it provides more flexibility. For example, if I don't want to store the individual lab assessment marks in the generated CSV file, I can delete those key value pairs from the dictionary. I should do it here after calculating the total marks. Now we have the same 3 entries but with just the total marks. So that's all from this lesson. Thanks for watching.